Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matt Gets It podcast. This is a sports debate show where we discuss the biggest topics in sports. I'm your host, Matt Martinez, and with me is my co-host, Billy Ryan. Billy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm back with another interesting week of sports, baby.
And that is an understatement to say the least, Billy. We have several topics to discuss, including a preview of the upcoming bout between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. We also have the latest news from the WNBA. We also have reactions from week one of the NFL regular season. And lastly, we have an update on the LA Clippers and Kawhi Leonard investigation. And that is a very intriguing topic, Billy. And folks, please stay tuned for that. It's going to be a crazy one. First things first, Billy, we're going to start in the boxing world. And a mega fight is occurring this upcoming weekend there in Las Vegas, Nevada. We have Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. This is a 12-round title fight, and it is for the undisputed super middleweight championship. Billy, this is arguably a once-in-a-lifetime fight, right? When you have established, prominent champions on both sides fighting each other from different weight classes, nonetheless. And Billy, this fight is exclusively on Netflix, so this is a massive opportunity for everyone to see this bout. I just like to hear your thoughts on this and what you expect to see.
I'm really excited for this pretty much super fight. You don't really see that much in boxing, and I feel like, especially with the last 2 to 3 years, the big fights are mixed in with the influencer fights like a Jake Paul and some of these other streamers and stuff like that, which I feel like does take away from portions of the boxing, but it is still adding fans. You know what I mean? Um, but as everybody kind of knows, like boxing is a little bit more on this. I wouldn't say dying, but like not as many people are watching it for sure. When it comes to the big name boxers like Canelo and Crawford, I think that's like what keep the truly elite boxers. And there's so many weight classes these days and so many different world championships through different organizations that people are world champions in their respective sports. And I know it's kind of like similar for UFC as well. Like they have obviously like the PFL, Bellator mixed in with I think they got recently bought out with the PFL, and some of these other like organizations like one fights and stuff like that. So I do like the variety, and I do like the finally good matchup because like the last few fights that we've at least I've seen from like Canelo, there's somebody who's more or less kind of up and coming or have had the belt for a year or two, where Crawford's had the belt for a while and he's defended it a couple different times against great opponents. So I do like that we're finally getting the kind of matchups that we want to see, and I think the UFC in a sense kind of takes away because you're used to seeing 3 to 4 big names on a card rather than some of these boxing cards where it's like, hey, these guys are truly the headliners. Um, but to touch on what you were saying, I think this is the great time for somebody who's wants to start watching boxing or maybe isn't getting into it, where it's going to be free on Netflix, obviously if you have your subscriptions and stuff like that. But that's going to be huge. Like if it's going to allow you to kind of see some more of those up and coming boxers, but obviously you get to see your main event fight, which is going to be, I know it's going to be a great fight. And honestly, I lean towards Canelo. I think he's been such a good champion for so many years. It's hard to root against him, but obviously not taking anything away from Crawford. Like he's a great boxer. But just with my personal feels and a little bit of bias, I lean towards Canelo. But yeah, no, I'd like to see boxing open up to a lot of the more of the fans, and I think we're seeing it from a lot of different streaming platforms where we're used to having to pay for pay-per-view fights, that we can finally go towards the free direction, and it'll allow people to get a little bit more interested. But yeah, I'd love to hear your take on that too.
Yeah, touching on one of your last points there, Billy, that, or I should say, your pick, going off of your pick, right, is you're going with Canelo. He's actually the betting favorite at the moment, Billy. He's actually minus 175. And I mean, that checks out, right? He's the fighter in the heavier weight class. He's the one that's defending his four belts. Going back to one of your main points, like there's so many different organizations, right? Canelo is the reigning WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF super middleweight champion. So they're fighting for all four of those belts, Billy. And Canelo is a safe pick in all honesty. Like he's the number 8 pound for pound fighter in boxing. He has a professional record of 63 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. So, I mean, what is that win percentage? Has to be like 97%, right? Something like that.
And
Not a math guy off the top of my
I
head.
know one of those people that he lost to was Floyd Mayweather, and that was like super early on in Canelo's career
Yeah.
when he wasn't quite
Hmm.
that established yet. So
Yeah. And then I think one of his other losses was to Dimitri Bivol, who was the light heavyweight champion. So he went up to try and get more belts, right? So he's gone up and chased greatness. Now he's giving another fighter the opportunity. And on the flip side of that is Terence Bud Crawford, who is the number 3 pound for pound boxer right now, Billy. So he's no slouch by any means, right? He himself is 41-0. He's undefeated. Uh, and he's the underdog right now at plus 140. Crawford himself, Billy, is a 4 division king. He has titles or won titles at 135 pounds, 140 pounds, 147 pounds, and 154 pounds. So he's gone up in weight already numerous times, and then now he's going up what from 154 to 168, which is the super middleweight 168. So he's skipping 160 and going up to 168 to fight Canelo. Like that's how bad of a mother effer, excuse my French. I didn't say the full word, but that's how bad of a dude Crawford is. So I guess based off how hype I just got saying that, you could tell who I'm riding with, Billy. I'm
yep.
going with Bud Crawford, bro.
Yeah, no, and like I think, like you were saying, I might be going with a little bit more of the safe pick here. Do
Hmm.
you know what the age difference between these guys are by chance?
So I believe Crawford is actually 2 years Canelo's senior. So he's 2 years older. Crawford is 37, Canelo's 35.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting. I just by
Hmm.
like looking at them, I feel like Crawford looks a bit younger just from like some of the pictures and standoffs that I'm looking. So that surprises me. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
no, like you were saying, I think it's going to be a great fight. And I didn't know that he was ranked pound per pound number 3 in the boxing world. I think it's still interesting to me that Canelo's the betting favorite when he's number 8 on the list. Like obviously there's 5 people in between that list that are all bad men.
Oh, definitely.
I'm curious to see if it's like maybe if there was like some type of voters fatigue. You're like, yeah, it's Canelo. He's getting older.
Yeah. Hmm.
But like at the same time, where it's like, hey, Bud Crawford is 2 years older and maybe in the prime of his career, a 3 pound for pound ranking. So I don't know. I'm a little caught up in between there, but I still feel I'm leaning. I'm leaning Canelo.
Hey man, like I said, like that's a safe pick. I totally understand it. Like Canelo himself, Billy, has 39 KOs. So
Sheesh.
you got to be cautious. You know what I mean? Like this guy
Right.
has some power himself, and God, dude, if you watch some of his previous fights, this guy is able to unload 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combinations at times. It's like a
True.
blur of punches just whopping guys across their dome.
True, true. And I think honestly, I think the amount of fans and traction is going to be a little bit higher than maybe most attendance. I know if you go into the UFC official website, they're also promoting the boxing night, and they have a
Yeah.
UFC card that same night. And I think this may be the first or potentially even the last time that we ever see this type of production. So I think they're doing a great job about getting all different fight fans to maybe even bounce back and forth between the two cards if possible. You know what I mean?
No, that's a great point that you just brought up, Billy. Like that's how massive of a fight this is. Like the UFC is getting involved in helping promote it and like organize it because even like go back to some of these previous press conferences like with boxing, the fighters for some reason like they get a little chippy, man. Like obviously like granted like it's obviously physical combat sport, but like you're getting the opportunity to get paid and fight these guys in the ring, but they're over here trying to slap each other at the weigh-ins or the introductory press conference. Like, bro, you're jeopardizing the opportunity to make that money because in the boxing world they get paid massive amounts of dollars compared to UFC, right? Like
100%.
massive, massive amounts of dollars.
100%. Now I think like it's like if even like a good UFC card, if you're a Conor McGregor and you win by a knockout fashion, I think his big one is like he won like 20 to 30 million, where it's like I feel like that's the average fight purse for the typical upper level elite boxer. Like if
Right?
they're
No,
like a
for
top
sure.
three, top five guy, and they're like competing to go fight for the belt, I feel like those guys truly do get paid so much more money. I want to say it's like they're guaranteed that 30 to 50 million, where it's like the UFC, like you gotta be the guy and fight in the championship and get all the right pay per view. So yeah, no, I for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great fight, Billy. We'll have to see what transpires there on September 13th on Netflix, from Allegiant Stadium. So it's gonna be probably a tremendous looking like spectacle, right? Like if you ever been to Allegiant Stadium, like that dude, that stadium is so sick. But moving on, Billy, we got some basketball to talk about, and specifically the Las Vegas Aces, who are absolutely red hot at the moment. They are riding a 14-game winning streak, Billy. I repeat that, 14-game winning streak. They are absolutely firing on all cylinders, and I would assume that they are a team that the rest of the league does not want to see come playoff time, right, Billy? Um, the playoffs start now, September 14th, actually, in a few days here, and my gosh, Billy, like I just like to get your thoughts on the Aces uh altogether, and just what do you think it means for a team who is currently tied for the fourth longest winning streak in WNBA history? Like what does that do for your confidence going into the postseason?
No, 100%. And it's like, especially, it's about all sports. It's about getting hot at the right time. And it's like, obviously, like, this is the time that it means most to get hot, to earn yourself a good playoff spot. So you don't, you're able to play a lower level seed. But also, like you were saying, it does so much for your mentality with your team. Like everybody's playing loose, everybody's playing like they were as a kid. They're having fun. That's like ultimately when people are playing their best, is when it gets down to the brass roots of the game, and it brings it down to the fundamentals that you learned as a kid, which made you love the game, right? So it all kind of comes full circle there, for the Aces. I think like, hey, you're playing hot at the right time. You have the right team to do it, and it's like, hey, we have the ability to go far, as we've seen the Aces do a few different times to even win the championship. So like in their mind, they're like, hey, we have the right people to do it. We've been there, we've done that. Like it's very real, it's very possible. But now it's just like sticking together, and having the same mentality and game plan without having to press, thinking about the playoffs. I think is going to be the big next step for the Aces.
Yeah, those are all great points that you just brought up, Billy, because at one point during the regular season, we were like, what the heck is going on with the Las Vegas Aces, right? We were like, are they not really sure of their identity? Like the roster construction they had, is it really going to pan out? Like, what's going on here? But my God, they stuck together, they buckled down, and more or less relied on their superstar player to lead them, and she's done just that. That star player is no other than Asia Wilson, who has probably solidified herself as the MVP, right, Billy? Like
For
we
sure.
obviously talked about in a previous episode, like how close the race was between her and Collier of Minnesota. But my gosh, like putting your team on a 14-game winning streak going into the playoffs, averaging well over 20 points a game, Billy. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Wilson also recorded her 13th 30-point game of the year, Billy, which is like a league record. So she is balling out right now, right? So,
She's
my gosh, that again, hitting on my question and point at the beginning of this segment, like that's a team you don't want to see come playoffs. Like you do not want to get matched up with them. And unfortunately, the team that's getting or at the moment is seeded to go against them in the playoffs is the Indiana Fever, who have received and bestowed upon the mass fan base or WNBA fan base that their star player Caitlin Clark is out for the remainder of the year, Billy. That groin injury that she sustained is too much to overcome for this season, and they just decided to shut her down. So, Billy, I'd just like to pose the question to you. What does that mean for the Fever, who were probably hoping to get uh top 10 player, top 15 player? You can even make a case top 5 player, right? When she's like absolutely playing her
healthy, yeah.
best basketball. But for sure, upper echelon talent, right? Like, what does that mean for them going into the playoffs? That's not going to be an option.
Now, and I think as the Fever, you have to kind of come in with a chip on your shoulder. I think you have to play with nothing to lose in that sense of mind, where it is like, man, we are playing the hottest team going into the playoffs, and we don't have our best player to help facilitate the
Yeah,
floor. And obviously, they've done a good job about managing because Caitlin Clark's kind of been in and out for the most part of the season.
yeah, she's
Um,
missed the majority of the year.
Right. So I think for them to be able to at least kind of seal that playoff spot shows that they're like, hey, we deserve to be here. We are one of the top, 8 teams or top 4 teams in our division. Like, hey, we have to show up, and like I said, you got to play with that chip on your shoulder with like something to lose because I think you've known it as well playing in baseball. It's like those teams are sometimes the scariest to play when they have nothing to lose and they're like, fuck, we're gonna let it ride. We're gonna see what happens, but we're gonna give it our all. And it's like, ugh, if you're having a bad day, on the other side, it's like, you're like, hey, this is a team that we should absolutely beat, but the implications around it's like, hey, we're putting pressure on ourselves and we're feeling the pressure. So I think the Indiana Fever have to play loose to give themselves a shot.
Man, that's such a great point that you just made, Billy. Like, when you're expecting to beat a team and then come to find out like their best player who you've been game planning and scheming for is not going to be participating, you kind of like you back off for sure, right? And then you're not on top of your assignments, you're not getting the job done, and then that's when you ultimately lose. And that hurts like more than anything, right? That's even more deflating like to say like if that player was to play, like and they like just went like say absolutely bonkers, like you just didn't have an answer, right? But like it's more or less expected, right? Because of that high level player obviously doing what they're meant to do. But my gosh, Billy, it sucks for the Fever because I mean, there's no other point guard really in the league like Caitlin Clark, like from a playmaking standpoint, like her vision, like her full length of the court passes, like in transition, right, the kick ahead. Gosh, she sets up so many other teammates, and then when she steps across half court, she's a threat. Like she's such a dynamic 3-point shooter, like with range. Like you have to extend out and guard her. In 13 games, Billy Clark averaged 16 and a half points, 5 rebounds, 8.8 assists, and 1.6 steals per game. So she set that she sets up the offense, and like gosh, she makes the game easier for her teammates. But again, going back to one of the points you made, like to the Fever's credit, they maintained the course of the regular season, the majority of the regular season, I should say, without her. And they are currently 23 and 20 on the year. They clinched the playoffs. They're the 7th seed at the moment. So well deserved. They also have talented players on the roster, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston. So hats off to the Fever, right?
100%, 100%. And like we were saying, like they deserve it, but you gotta show up. You gotta show up.
Facts. So stay tuned for that, folks. The WNBA playoffs is just a few days away. We'll see ultimately what seeds the teams end up getting. Will it be the Aces versus the Fever in the first round? Hmm. Next up, we have some football to talk about, Billy, and this is going to be a segment in which we each discuss two things from week one that transpired. Um, we are also each going to talk about one player and one team, right, Billy, that either stood out to us in a positive way or a negative way. And I'll let you go first, and you could go with either or. So if you want to start with a player or a team. So by all means, sir.
Perfect. Actually, I'd say both of mine are kind of correlated. I'm going to pick a team and a player from that team that I think really kind of helped make a difference in
Hmm,
that game.
gotcha. Hmm.
Um, first team I'm going to select is the Buffalo Bills. I think if anybody watched that Ravens Buffalo Bills game, might have been one of the highlights for the Buffalo Bills for the rest of the season. I think that's something where, hey, first off, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and the Ravens are absolute monster of a team. They're going to be something that's dangerous. They're going to be making it to the playoffs. I have no doubt in my mind. If not, they are probably one of the top contending teams in my mind moving forward. But I think the Buffalo Bills did a great job showing about just the adversity going into that fourth quarter. I remember, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, maybe a little bit biased on my part, but I was disappointed with 4 minutes, 3 minutes left going into the fourth quarter, and we're down by like 12 or 8 or whatever it was. So I was like, man, they even said it during the game, like, hey man, people are starting to leave the stadium, and then all of a sudden we score and people are funneling back in, trying to get back to their seats. So I think that just says something about like kind of the perseverance that the Buffalo Bills showed. And I'm not going to go with the easy pick in Josh Allen here, as some might expect. I'm actually going to go with one of the secondary top tier players for the Buffalo Bills, in James Cook. Though he only had 13 carries, where Josh Allen had majority of the running carries in this game with 14. But he had 13 yards. He was only average, or I'm sorry, he had 13 carries for 44 yards, and he was averaging 3.4 a carry. Obviously, you'd like to see that number up a little bit more in terms of yards per carry, but limited in the amount of touches. But I mean, that's easier to do when you do have a Josh Allen who can scramble, who can do a quarterback draw and go out, get 10, 15 yards or whatever it is to get a first down. I totally get that. But I do want to point out that James Cook did have 58 receiving yards. So he had more receiving yards than he did rushing yards. But I think this just kind of highlights how much of a utility player he can be, productive on both the running and the passing game. So I want to give that shout out to James Cook. And I think like they need to keep doing what they're doing, even if he's not getting the amount of rushing yards or he's still kind of getting blocked up at the line. That frees up the passing game, so he's able to kind of hit a bubble screening, be able to get 10, 15 yards in the carry. And he was averaging 11.6 yards per catch. So like when he is getting the ball on a catch, he's getting upfield and he's getting a first down. So yeah, shout out to the Buffalo Bills there. And my next team might be a little bit controversial, but I'm going into the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they did really, really well against the Patriots, and I think the Patriots actually showed up really well in this game. To be honest, I thought it was going to be a game where we were going to see Genty get 100, 150 yards rushing. He was going to kind of control the game. But I think the Patriots showed up and stepped up on the defensive side of the ball 100%. I think they did okay on the offensive side of the ball, but I'm going to read some stats here where Geno Smith went 24 of 34 with 362 passing yards, one touchdown, one pick. Um, I think that's exactly what the Raiders need at this point in time. I think they need a quarterback that can pass the ball, and I think it's going to be able to open up the run game for Ashton Genty in the long term. I think week one, I think you really, play against him. You really kind of put your defensive scheme around the rush. And they did that. At 19 carries, he only had 38 yards rushing. Obviously, a touchdown too there as well, so that obviously helps. But even Brock Bowers had 103 receiving yards and only 5 receptions. So the production there is great, and I didn't think they were honestly expecting the Raiders to pass as much as they did. But I think the scheme that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith have at this point in time is something that the Raiders absolutely are needing.
Yeah, for sure, Billy. And going back to uh the first part of your assessment there with the Bills, like I think it was a great choice in shouting out James Cook because, excuse me, if you look at the Buffalo Bills offensive skill players, right, like there was kind of a question mark, like who was gonna step up, right? Like there's not really that premier standout receiver that they have on their roster, so it's like how how much is or who is Josh Allen really gonna rely on, right? Like can't throw the ball to himself, right? That I know that's always like a kind of like a joke there with quarterbacks, like it's like man they can't throw the ball to themselves, right? Like you need somebody who's gonna be on the other end of that who's gonna be able to catch the ball, and maybe that is James Cook, right? Like you're saying, they use him or feature him more in the passing game, right? Use those bubble screens, and if I'm not mistaken, they did in fact use one of those plays where it resulted in like what a 50 some yard
Yep,
gain. Was it a touchdown too?
it might have been. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so like yeah. So great selection there in James Cook uh standing out and being impressive because rightfully so all the attention is on Josh Allen. But my gosh, Billy, like I was shocked that the Bills came back and won, man, because at one
Hell
point
yeah.
it was like 34-19. I was like, oh my God, are the Ravens really like that for real this year? Like, I obviously you expect the Ravens to be good, like put up a lot of points with that talented offense that they have in Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, right? Like, talk about a rushing attack, 1-2 rushing attack. My goodness. But to come back from a what 2-3 touchdown deficit, right? Score
Yeah.
deficit, like that's very commendable, and it just goes back to this famous quote. So you're saying there's a chance,
You
right?
see, and there's man, dumbing down my own.
Exactly. hmm But yeah, shout out to Josh Allen and company, James Cook and company, the Bills get the win week one. On my end, Billy, or I'm sorry, before I go to my picks there, and just I want to hit a little bit on your second pick there, the Las Vegas Raiders. I was surprised, Billy, that they got the win. I'll be the first to admit that. Uh, the conditions were terrible. It was a rainy day. The field was very wet. So I was even surprised that they were able to throw the ball that they successfully as they did. Like you were saying, Bowers over 100 yards. I think Myers came close to 100 yards, but
Yep.
Geno Smith to throw for three bills. Wow, finally, because it's been some time since the Raiders have had a quarterback that's able to throw for 300 yards and get the win, right? Because
Derek Carr.
yeah, yeah. Since then, like obviously Carr had some down years. I'll admit that too. But man, the Raiders they surprised me, Billy. They got the job done. The 1-0, just win, baby. That's all I'll say there. On my end, though, Billy, for my picks, uh, I want to talk about the NFL debut of Cam Ward. And my gosh, the number one overall pick, Billy, didn't look that great in all honesty. Like at times he looked fairly decent, but he threw for just 112 yards in a 20-12 loss against the Broncos. The Miami product completed just 12 of 28 passes, Billy. Didn't have no touchdowns. All their points came via field goals. But, I mean, Ward had some nice throws, and the progressions that he made throughout the game were pretty good considering it was his first, game in the NFL, like the regular season. But, man, his line did him no favors, and neither did his receivers. Like the line looked very lackluster, and the receiving core was extremely weak. Like how many drop balls did they have? Like I guess
I
the only plus side like for Ward was that his arm strength is evident. Like he was zipping the ball, dude.
oh
But
yeah,
my
Yeah,
gosh, like his receivers could not hang on
dude.
to it. Like they could not catch it and bring it down.
Yeah, I counted like four, maybe five drops, and like two of those were like critical crunch hour times, like that last
Hmm.
play on that fourth down.
Yeah, and it's just you hope it's gonna get better because Ward, if we're being an all tongue twister there, excuse me. Cam Ward, if we're being honest here, folks, is like one of the more, or I should say, one of the least talked about number one picks in like recent history. Like not much has been said about him, and maybe that's because he went to the Tennessee Titans. Not much is expected of them, but
Yep.
you would think the number one pick of the draft, like a lot more hype would be coming for his debut. Ultimately, nothing much materialized. Like I said, just 112 yards, no touchdowns. But I guess the
Right.
Broncos defense like is no joke. Like they're one of the better defenses, or were one of the better defenses coming into the season, like expected to be. So it held up. They had what, 6 sacks?
Yeah, yeah, they were getting to the yeah, like you're saying, their line was looking real bad. They were a little all over the place. We were getting pressure on the quarterback. It seemed like almost every play. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised with the Titans defense and or maybe a little underwhelmed with the Broncos offense because
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be one of those games that again that was a blowout, and I'm like looking and peeking on the game in the third or fourth quarter. And I'm like, this is not. It shouldn't be this close. Um, so I don't know. Maybe like you were saying though, I think maybe there is the lack of hype around him just because everybody like there's no other superstars on the team. Like I think like Pollard, they have a
Calvin
couple
Ridley.
good. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that's really the only two offensive guys, and even like now Calvin Ridley is he's been like hurt or on and off or
Hmm.
suspended for various different stuff that's going in. And I would say in his prime, he was one of the top receivers and stuff like that. So, like, obviously, you want to have the hype around him, but it sounds like they got some stuff to figure out.
No, definitely they do, Billy, and hopefully it happens fast because there's nothing worse than a highly drafted quarterback struggling early on because then the dialogue around him changes drastically, right? Like you're
Yeah.
then going from, oh, he's the best quarterback in the draft to we're like,
What a
did
bust.
he really deserve to be? Yeah, exactly. Did he really deserve to be drafted that high? Oh, he's a bust, yada yada yada. But hopefully Cal Moore turns it around and the Titans turn it around. I'm rooting for him. Uh, my team, Billy, that excuse me, I was extremely shocked to see struggle was the Miami Dolphins, and they got routed by the Indianapolis Colts. The score was 33-8, and the Dolphins didn't score, Billy, until the fourth quarter. Like, if I'm not mistaken, like around the 6 minute mark, something like that in the fourth quarter. So
Yeah.
it was a one-sided affair. Miami only had 211 yards of total offense. They also had 3 turnovers. And that started with their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He had 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He only completed 14 of 23 passes. I was, like I said, Billy, shocked to see the Dolphins struggle like that because they have a lot of skill weapons, right? On the offensive side, like they're not too far removed from being like one of the most fire-powered offenses, right? Where they're scoring like what, 40 points a game, like a
Yeah.
season or two.
They got Tyreek Hill, A Chain. Plus, they're still under McDaniel, who's a great coach.
Yeah,
Like they got a huge amount of potential.
yeah, but to lose by what, 25 points, and it's because they got a 2 point conversion. like
Which is
my
crazy. Now that's
goodness.
crazy. Now,
Yeah.
like they're another team that seems like they got to figure it out, and it's like we've seen how good Tua can be in the NFL if he's healthy, but I think it's like honestly, when he steps out on the field, I do feel like he probably has a little bit of hesitation about getting hit because of his prior health concerns. Like dude, he's been knocked out on the field like 3 times, like completely out cold. removed on a stretcher a couple times. Where it's like, dude, at what point doesn't that not play a psychological thought in your head of is like, man, if I scramble and I don't slide, even if he does slide sometimes, he's been getting beat up. So I do think that has like something to do with it, is like maybe he needs to just get back into a rhythm and a groove of feeling confident. But I understand why he'd have some hesitations about being on the field and having general health concerns.
No, great point because myself, Billy, I am in the, or I should say, I'm a member of the camp that questions why Tua continues to play. To your point, like he's been knocked out cold several times on the field, like viciously. There's been times where, I mean, I don't want to like, you know, bring paint a picture in anyone's minds, but like if you've seen the games, it's like it's scary, man. You know what I mean? And he doesn't wear the Guardian cap. He doesn't wear, or if I'm mistaken, he doesn't wear like that extra protective helmet that they
Right.
developed that like you could play like some linemen use it, right? But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, like you would think he would really worry about his brain protecting his head, but hey man, he loves football. He wants to be out there, but if you're going to continue being out there, Billy, you got to be able to perform and you got to produce, right? Because
100%.
he's a capable quarterback. Like he's shown it. Like he's able to throw for these 400 yard games where he's throwing 3 touchdowns and, you know, audibling into the right read or right play call where A Chain is able to break it open for 60 yards, right, Billy? So
100%.
we'll see what happens there in Miami, but I was extremely shocked to see them suffer a defeat like that.
Yeah. Ruined
To
my
end the
parlay.
show, folks. Oh, what was that?
I said, yeah, and they ruined my parlay.
Yeah, I saw that a lot on X throughout the day. I was like, a lot of parlays were ruined week one.
Yeah.
To end the show, Billy, we're gonna discuss some controversy hitting the NBA. So the NBA, Billy, has hired a law firm to investigate allegations that Kawhi Leonard and the LA Clippers were circumventing the salary cap. So what that means is they were essentially agreeing to deals to which they were paying paying Kawhi Leonard under the table to where it doesn't affect their salary cap in the NBA, and that is a major no-no, folks. That is a major violation. Um, It is reported that Kawhi Leonard was signing endorsement deals and specifically received a 4-year, $28 million endorsement from a tree planting company called Aspiration. Billy, this was what they're calling a no-show job. Kawhi didn't have to do anything. He just had to sign this endorsement deal and he received 28 million over the course of 4 years. Didn't have to show his face, didn't have to do nothing. He also was reported to have agreed to a second deal with that same company, Billy, worth approximately 20 million, and it was set to be paid in company stock. So altogether, he was getting 48, roughly 50 million dollars from this tree planting company, which was then, I guess, sponsoring the LA Clippers, and Steve Ballmer, signed off on them to be affiliated with the organization. So now Steve Ballmer, the owner, and the Clippers are under a lot of heat, Billy. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this whole predicament and what the heck is going on in the NBA.
You know, that's a great. If I had the answers to that, I would be on ESPN. That would be awesome. But
Yeah, you wouldn't be here with me, huh?
I bring you on. You're my dog. I'll bring you on. But
Respect.
no, just that's just like what a crazy situation to be in. It's like, hey, I get trying to find creative ways to get past the salary cap, but that's just genuine. They're just breaking the rules at this point. They're truly just being like, hey, dude, if you come play for us, we'll get you an extra 40 million under the table, but like you just gotta, don't say anything. And it's crazy that this is all just kind of coming out. And I think I heard something about this 2 years ago. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was in the NFL for a very similar thing where, but I think it was more or less around property as well. They were like, oh, we'll give you this property and stuff like that, which also kind of follows those rules. But I mean, don't get me wrong. If I was one of these professional athletes and they're trying to offer me under the table untaxed money, I'd be like, yeah, yes, sir. I will be the CEO of a tree company. I will do that. I would do that any day of the week. Um, but no, I think it just leads to believe where it's like, hey, how many other star players have done this, or how many organizations are doing this with talent?
Yeah, right. Like, is this only occurring there with the Clippers, or is this happening elsewhere? Like, excuse me, this is gonna open a floodgate, Billy, if in fact the Clippers and Kawhi are found guilty, right? Because again, this is all just allegations that it's being reported that they're hiring a firm to investigate, right? They could find out there's nothing that occurred. So again, this is all just like really spur of the moment news, right?
100%.
However, that said, it is very curious because if you go back to when the Clippers got Kawhi in free agency, it was reported that Kawhi was like, I'm only coming here if you get this player, if you do this and you do that, right? So that then poses the question like, hey, how legit is this allegation that they negotiated an endorsement deal under the table off to the side where he's getting extra money, right? That then
Yeah.
allows the team to then reuse, so to speak, and go after more talent to add. So, and then Billy, to take a step further, how many prominent players have the Clippers had in recent years, right? Paul
A
George,
lot.
James Harden. I mean, they've signed Zubac to a fairly decent deal. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
uh, they brought in Russell Westbrook for a year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was like on a buyout or something like that. But still,
Yeah.
like they've brought in several pieces. Like they're constantly making moves year after year. You got to have money, right, to be able to acquire talent. Got to spend money to make money. Isn't that the whole saying, right?
That's the saying. That's the saying.
Yeah. So it's really interesting what's occurring right now because what the heck, like why is it just seems Billy like something's constantly occurring in the NBA. There's a lot of investigations into betting deals, like contracts, like what the heck, right?
Like I said, it's just like as soon as you put a salary cap in a sport, and like places like LA have the money to be able to spend on what they want. But like I said, there is as soon as there's a salary cap, they're gonna find a way to try to get past that to secure, because like ultimately it's like, hey, if your team wins a championship, you win more money in return, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it checks out where it's like, hey, I can recover my investments if we win a championship or make it far into the playoffs. Why not? You know? So and I feel like it's getting easier and easier. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's like to cover these things up. I feel like it's been something that's like that. And I know, and it's like around all sports, there always has to be some type of controversy about someone kind of either cheating or, maneuvering the system or something like that. Like, I think that it just kind of comes and goes. And I think this is just kind of the next wave that we're seeing.
Talk about reinvestment, Billy, like the Clippers in that new arena.
Yeah, they got to make their money back somehow, man.
That extra 50 they saved from Kawhi, that's how they're
They're
able
like,
to
yeah,
afford a
yeah,
couple of those massive jumbotrons.
100%, 100%.
My goodness. But that's all we have for today, folks. We talked about the super fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford that will be taking place this upcoming weekend in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is for the undisputed super middleweight championship. We'll see who gets the job done. Billy is leaning towards Canelo. I'm leaning towards Crawford. Stay tuned for that. We also discussed some the latest news, I should say, in the WNBA. The announcement that Clayton Clark will miss the remainder of the year with her groin injury. Huge blow to the Fever, but they've maintained to this point. They have capable players who can score and make highlight reels in their own right. We also talked about the Las Vegas Aces and their historic win streak right now. 14 games, Billy. They're two away from tying the 2014 Phoenix Mercury for the second longest win streak in WNBA history. So, two more games, it gets to 16. Dang.
Got a shot. Got a shot.
Yeah. And then we also discussed some players and teams who had some both positive and negative performances in week one, right, Billy? The Dolphins looked terrible. Uh, Number one overall pick Cam Ward didn't look that great. But on the other side of that, the Las Vegas Raiders looked decent. The Buffalo Bills had a crazy comeback victory, right, Billy? James Cook looked really well. So shout out to
Oh
him.
yeah, great game.
And lastly, we talked about the allegations to the or I should say the allegations against the Los Angeles Clippers and Kawhi Leonard in their endorsement deals that are reportedly taking place under the table. Stay tuned for that. We'll keep you updated on that, folks. Please share your thoughts in the comments below or tag us on X, formerly known as Twitter. Billy, where can the folks find you?
At X at thrillythebill.
And you can find me on X at MattMTZ108. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for alerts. For Matt Gets It, I'm Matt Martinez. That's Billy Ryan. We'll see you next time.